Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Always a dogfight, no pun intended, when we play down there. And it's always close, one hit, one pitch, one run here or there. So we're going to be challenged greatly this weekend.
There's some things that we can still do. There's no question in my mind. The other teams in our conference have tough series coming up as well, and everybody's banging each other up in the ACC, just like all the other conferences. So a lot can happen in the next couple of weeks.
Boy, the Tigers need something to happen. They need to win. They've got 12 games left. They need to win 12 games. They're at 25 wins. They're not going to get to 40, which is kind of the magic number when it comes to the postseason and hosting and all that kind of stuff. They better be careful. They've got James Madison for 2 tonight and tomorrow. They've got UNLV for 2 Sunday and Monday, a day off, and then they get High Point at home. So they have to really win every game to ensure they get into the postseason. Meantime, you heard Chad Holbrook, the Gamecocks down in Georgia tonight, and they're in much better position. Of course, they can ill afford to stub their toe with 9 league games to go, but with a number 6 RPI, and they're sitting at, 34 wins right now. So they've got 3 more home league games, 6 road league games, including a trip to Vandy to close out the regular season. Vandy's playing very well. So, man, the Gamecocks still have some work ahead of them as we keep an eye on baseball and NASCAR and football tonight here on Sports Talk. What a great combination. Baseball, football, NASCAR, golf, do some golf, work in a little NBA as well. Phil Kornbluth and the professor, Tomas Hayes, who feels like it's December or January.
It is chilly in here.
We've got to get you more of a spring outfit going here.
No, you can't.
Why is that?
Because I'm cold-natured. And by that
do
means,
you have cold hands? Do you have the hands of a coroner? Do you have cold hands?
Yes, I do.
Do you?
I do, because I get that in church all the time. You have cold hands. And then I respond that, people with colder temperatures live longer to take care of themselves.
That's a good point. I hope you're right about that. My hands are very warm. I don't know if that's a good sign or not.
The only thing I want to think about, I have to have a medical opinion here. If you're protecting your squad from a virus spreading, and you ride 2 players in a separate car from the team bus, they still have to sit in the same dugout. So what are you doing?
Put a mask
I'm
on.
trying to figure out. What is it, D.C. Arendis and
Jordan Gore.
And Jordan Gore, they've got a little flu bug, so they're driving down in a car while the
Joel
team rides out in the
Seddon,
bus.
the Gamecock reliever, who's one of the best in the country this year with, 12 saves, I believe, ERA under 1. Joel Seddon taking ground balls at second base in infield this afternoon in Athens.
You have a closer, you wrap him in cellophane till you bring him out on the mound.
We'll tell you what's going on and getting ready for those games. We'll talk a little NBA and update you on what's going on in NASCAR. Qualifying coming up at Talladega in a little bit. We'll stay on top of that. Oh, Tyler Thigpen. We're going to hear from him tonight. Newest member of the quarterback corps at the Cleveland Browns. Be right back.
You sure you want to go back to the league? I tell you, I wonder what Jerry Myers does to get himself these high-level closers year in and year out. Boy, it doesn't matter who he loses. I got the mentality. I don't have the stuff, bro. They're definitely a strange breed as a closer. There's no question. They're totally different. It is a strange. It's the psychology of it's strange. Whether it's your fault or not, you kind of come in there to clean up the mess, and that's kind of your mentality. But if you're coming in, there's not really a mess to clean up. It's strange, really, really strange. Wait, you're giving me a 4-run lead? Well, here's 5 runs. We're now losing. Good old Mitch fell victim to old Joe in '93. I think I love you. He's actually really good. I don't know if he's still doing it. He's a hell of a commentator on MLB Network. When they first started their bid, I can't remember who he had, maybe Chris Myers or somebody. But he's actually really, really good. You know, the first thing you think of Mitch Williams, like, oh, well, welcome to Mitch Williams, like, loser. But he's actually really good at what he does. The walk-off. It was 93. Remember, 94 is a strike. Here at the SCRN TMZ department. Stand by.
All right, 800-956-7266 is the phone number. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Love to hear from you tonight on this Friday night. It's date night for a lot of you. You got a date tonight, Pro?
Yeah,
Good.
with the couch.
Steak Man got a date tonight?
Actually headed to Charleston this weekend for a wedding. Got good friends getting married, so I am making my way back down to Charleston.
Oh, last
Good luck to
time
me,
this
huh?
happened, please put the paintball guns away.
I promise to be safe. Promise.
You know,
I'll
I
be
think
back
a
Monday.
35-year-old man should be playing paintball anyway.
I'm not even 30.
Well, whatever.
Well, you got something much older than that playing paintball, to tell you the truth.
Anyway, it's date night, so if you're out on a date and you want to spice things up, give us a call. Can't think of a better way to spice up a date.
Great idea.
Then join us here on Sports Talk. We'll actually put the females to the front of the line tonight. We haven't done that in a long time. We'll put the females to the front of the line. 800-956-7266. All right, I want Gamecock fans to close their ears because you're not going to believe what I'm about to tell you. Close your ears.
Well, they can't hear what you tell them. They can't believe what they can't hear.
This is true. I mean, we've been talking about the Gamecocks and injuries and all this and sickness. Just following John Whittle's tweets from Athens. DC Arenda's out of the game tonight. He took a ground ball off the side of the head, apparently during infield today. So he's out. He's been sick. Now he gets hit in the head. So the Gamecock lineup looks like this: Mooney at short, Cone in left, Pancake at third, Martin at first, Griner catching, Widener the DH, Harrington in right, Gore at second, English in center, and Montgomery on the mound.
Interesting.
That's a far stretch from where the Gamecocks started the season when you see Cone in the starting lineup, Harrington in the starting lineup, and Gore in the starting lineup.
And he probably took that ground ball off the head because his reflexes are off because of the virus. So he shouldn't have been out there in the first place.
Seddon was taking ground balls at second base, so he's the emergency second baseman.
Yeah, Jerry Myers taking ground balls in a minute.
Yeah, Jerry Myers has probably got indigestion and reflux and everything else that would come from that. So they're going to crank it up in Athens at around 7 o'clock. And Clemson and James Madison also getting it on tonight at Doug Kingsmore Stadium. That, too, is going to be a 7 o'clock start tonight. They'll play at 4 o'clock tomorrow. The pitching matchup there, it'll be Zach Irwin tonight for Clemson, and Chris Huffman, a right-hander, on the mound for James Madison. And tomorrow, the Tigers will use Matthew Crownover against Aaron Hoover. So that is the pitching lineup. Hoover is a left-hander for James Madison. Tonight's pitching matchup, I mentioned Jordan Montgomery for the Gamecocks, 6-3, 3.55. Ryan Lawler, a left-hander, starts for Georgia, 3-4, 3.65. Winecoop tomorrow for South Carolina against right-hander Robert Tyler, and Will Crow on Sunday for the Gamecocks, and TBA for Georgia. Game times in Athens for this series, 7 o'clock tonight, 1 o'clock tomorrow, and 1 o'clock on Sunday. By the way, our good friend, our Braves report man, Mike Morgan, is in Athens to call tomorrow's game on television. It's going to be on, who's got it? CSS? Yes, CSS will have it. He and Buck Bellew will call the action tomorrow.
Buck Bellew, the old Georgia quarterback who does a talk show, I think, in Atlanta.
So they'll be doing that game. And the Gamecocks 34-11, 12-9 in the SEC. Georgia 21-22-1, 7-13-1 in the SEC. So, Georgia's struggling, obviously, but a chance for South Carolina to improve itself, perhaps get a sweep on the road. Georgia, you look at some of their numbers, they're 256 hitting as a team. Let's see, they've only hit 10 home runs compared to 25 for the Gamecocks. They're pitching a 4.25 ERA compared to USC's 2.05. Now, the Gamecocks statistically have the edge here in many categories. Opposing teams are hitting 267 against Georgia compared to 220 against the Gamecocks. Georgia with a .968 fielding percentage to USC's .975. So Gamecocks are, they have much better numbers in key categories, and the Gamecocks have won 3 in a row and 4 of the last 5 in the series.
Well, I know it's not comparable, but similar to the stats the Braves could have trotted out against the Marlins.
Well, that's true. I mean, you never know. You absolutely never know.
You never know in baseball. Never know.
So that is the setup for tonight's baseball games at the USC and at Georgia and at Doug Kingsmore Stadium. Let's see, what else do we have for you tonight of major importance? Let's see. No other major news to tell you about as far as any sort of crazy stuff. So let's check in on some things that are happening. The Wells Fargo Championship in Charlotte, and it is Martin Flores and Angel Cabrera sharing the lead at 9 under. Flores with a 68, Cabrera with a 69. Justin Rose is 8 under. Sean Stefani is in at 7 under. Kevin Keisner of Aiken, a 66. He's at 6 under. Martine Keimer, a 69. He's at 6 under. J.B. Holmes, hadn't heard from him in a while. He's on the course at -6. Jeff Ogilvy, Martin Laird, and Jonathan Bird, they are at 5 under. Bird, a 71. They are all in the clubhouse. On the course at -5. Stuart Sink, and Danny Lee. And checking out some of the others that we follow. Let's see, Jim Furyk is 69. He's 3 under. Vijay Singh having a nice tournament, a 72. He's 3 under. Phil Mickelson, a 75 today, -2. Ernie Els is 67, 1 under, along with Davis Love III, who's on the course. Scott Brown, 73. He's even. Ben Martin, a 73, is also even. Kyle Stanley, 71. He's +1. Bill Haas is +1 after a 70. Rory McIlroy is 1 over on the course, playing the 18th. Lucas Glover is 74, 5 over. Russell Henley is 7 over. Tommy Gainey is 8 over. And Bill McGirt had an 80 today, and he is +11. The cut is going to fall right now. It's projected at +1 for the weekend. They have been practicing at Talladega, getting ready for tonight's qualifying. The fastest in second round of practice was Trevor Bayne. And he turned in a hot lap of 1:99.015. Carl Edwards, next fastest at 1:98.965. Then it was Tony Stewart, Kyle Busch, and Kurt Busch rounding out the top 5. Danica Patrick, you really have to keep an eye on her on the super speedways. What are you laughing at? You have to keep an eye on her.
Yeah, because she'll push you into the wall.
Where's K-Mac when you need him?
7th fastest. Boy, I hope she wins. I hope she wins so I can just shove it down K-Mac's throat. 197.651 for Danica. Jeff Gordon, 197. Dale Earnhardt Jr., 197. So we will be following qualifying there. The best 10 consecutive lap average was turned in by Dale Jr. at 195.920. Watching him today, it was a lot of inline racing. A lot of the cars were lined up nose to tail, following one another, drafting, and not a lot of side-by-side racing that I saw in the practice session I was able to catch. So we'll see if that's how it's going to work out in the qualifying run. This will be the first time they've had the new format of qualifying at Talladega, with everybody on the track for the most part at one time or another. So there could be some wrecking going on out there in qualifying tonight, and we'll stay on top of that for you. Monty Dutton will join us at 7:30 for the full Monty on NASCAR tonight, get his take on things all NASCAR, and we'll be back with more in a moment. All right, back on Sports Talk, 800-956-7266. That's our phone number. Email talkback at sportstalksc.com. We've gotten in a lot more mail and comments about the Pete Yandity Clemson situation, and so we will touch on some of those remarks as we move on through the program. Some of them are enlightening. Some of them are a little nasty. Some of them are funny. And so we'll share some of those with you as we move on through the program. Major League Baseball this afternoon. Hey, the Cubs beat St. Louis 6-5
That's
at
a
Wrigley.
big rivalry.
And coming up tonight, it's the Giants at the Braves. That game will begin at 7:35. And the television tonight is going to be Fox Sports South. It will be Tim Lincecum against Mike Minor. So, boy, that's a nice pitching matchup as Minor makes his season debut after working out in the minors and getting back into shape. And, of course, Lincecum trying to bounce back to his Cy Young form after an off year last year.
I think it's like Samson. Quite frankly, sometimes I like style over substance, and I still can't get over Lincecum with his haircut. I want to see the hair flying out of the back of the cap. I got used to that. That was fun, and that strange delivery he has. I think he's kind of changed it a little bit though, because what has happened, Phil, is almost like Tiger Woods. Remember when Tiger Woods' body was very thin and was like when he take a swing it was like a whip? Well, Tim Lincecum has put on a lot of weight, and he can't jack that leg way up high like he used to, and so he's had to change his delivery.
Well, something's going on with him because in 2008 he won 18 games and he lost 5. The next year he went 15-7. Then he went 16-10. He hasn't had a winning season since. 13-14, though it was 2.74 ERA in 2011. Then 10-15 in 2012. Last year 10-14, and so far this year 1-1 with a 5.96. So, this guy was, he was almost untouchable there for a while. But you're right, something has, whether it's the hair or the weight, something has gone on with him the last few years. Maybe it's the big contract that he signed with San Francisco. You know how that can mess you up. 1-1 with a 5.96. We'll get more on this game from Mike Morgan, who will be in Athens tonight, and he'll join us a little bit later on with our Atlanta Braves report. Also coming up, we are going to talk with Tyler Thigpen a little bit after 7 o'clock. Of course, Tyler, the former Coastal Carolina star, former Fairfield Central standout, getting another chance at the NFL. You don't always get a second chance. Once you've been out of the league, you don't always get a second chance, but he's getting that opportunity, signing a contract with the Cleveland, and he'll be competing for the backup job to Brian Hoyer. I guess he'll be competing with Vince Young and whoever else they might bring in through the draft.
And Johnny Football, maybe.
Yeah, no telling. So we'll chat with him a little bit after 7 o'clock. When we come back from the break, however, we can take your calls, 800-956-7266. It's Friday edition of Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network.
Dun, dun, dun. South Carolina Radio Network Sports. I'm Phil Kornblut. Chad Holbrook has not much of his lineup tonight. Conspiracy. You know, they put Quaaludes or something in his Powerade and made him lose his mind. For more, check us out on the website anytime. SportsTalk SC. Check it out. 16-minute sportscast and a 2-minute file. Stand by.
Okay, we're back. Sports Talk here on a Friday night. Thank you for joining us wherever you have picked us up around the state of South Carolina. Whether you're listening to us over one of our outstanding affiliates or perhaps you're catching us on iHeartRadio. Should you not be able to find us over the airwaves, iHeartRadio are two stations that are streaming on iHeartRadio. Our Greenville affiliate, WGVL, our Myrtle Beach affiliate, WSEA. You can catch us there. Also, our live audio feed on our website, sportstalksc.com, as well as the video feed down at the bottom of the page. You can watch us, watch all our moves, all our slick moves here on Sports Talk. That's down at the bottom of the page, sportstalksc.com. And the Steak Man, he pops up in there from time to time as well. We are in color, we are live, and we are in HD as well. So you can see all the beauty marks that we have. 800-956-7266, the number. NBA playoffs continuing tonight. What a great night last night was. Stayed up late. Well, not for you, but your team blew it. That's just so typical of the Hawks. Is there a greater choking franchise in all of sports? Now, seriously, a greater choking franchise, a team that has had many opportunities to establish itself as a big-time winner and has choked over the years more than the Hawks.
No.
I think without a doubt, no question, it is the Hawks, the biggest choker in the history of sports. Who else? Who's a bigger choker?
You cannot say that.
Name one. Think of all the Game 7s you've choked away over the years.
But every time we've choked away a Game 7, guess what? We had the lesser team. The better team.
Not always. I mean, you had some great teams.
Yeah, no, the better team.
Great teams over the years. Dominique, Tree, Sweet Lou.
Tree? Now, Tree was a shot block. He was a role player.
Yeah, but he was a big-time
He wasn't a
rebounder.
dominant player.
He was a dominant rebounder and shot blocker.
No, but he wasn't
much of a scorer.
He wasn't an offensive
Doc
threat,
Rivers. Think of the great players you've had. No, the Bray. I have now deemed the Hawks the greatest choke artists in history.
Well, why wouldn't you say the Utah Jazz? I mean,
they made it to the championship
series and lost at home.
But I mean, the Hawks. I mean, you had a chance to finish the Pacers last night.
But you
had the lead. You were at home, and you didn't get it done.
But the point.
There's only one word to describe that.
No, the point is
choke.
We've got where's Al Horford in this? Is he playing?
Injuries are part of the game.
No, not really. That's not what you were crying when the Celtics got banged up in the playoffs. But no, I was afraid as soon as I saw Joey Crawford on the floor. I did not like his officiating at all.
Mm-hmm.
No, but plus the Hawks are a team that must shoot from the perimeter because we do not have inside players. And everybody knows in an NBA playoff game at elimination time, it gets physical, more physical underneath, and we just don't have the physicality under there, and we must stroke the threes, and they didn't do that last night. And it cost them because they had a 5-point lead with 3 minutes, 15 seconds to go, and Indiana went on a, 12-4 run, I think, to close it out.
We've got the Nets and the Raptors tonight. That's the Celt Nets. I hope they win. That's my team in the playoffs, the Celt Nets.
They face elimination tonight.
They do. Good game last night between Golden State and the Clips. So they go back to L.A. for a Game 7. And, of course, you've got Oklahoma City rising up last night and smiting Memphis. And Memphis is going to be without their big guy.
Well, one of them, Zach Randolph.
Yeah.
Zebo will be out.
Mm-hmm.
Steven Adams got a little altercation, and he hit him with a jab, and he's gone. But see,
Can't be jabbing people.
This is the old style NBA. Put the goon in, bang the star, see if you can get him to do something. And apparently he did something, and he's out. And everybody was talking about George. I knew immediately George shouldn't be suspended. He took one step toward the altercation and then just stood back. You don't suspend the guy for that. But this is a strange playoff season where the home means nothing. We talk about the Hawks last night. The last 3 games in that series, the road team has won.
Mm-hmm.
It is incredible how home means nothing in this playoffs, apparently.
All right, while we have some time here, I want to read some more comments that have come in to us from our listeners and readers of our website, sportstalksc.com. The amount of interest in this story has been overwhelming, talking about Pete Yannity's removal as play-by-play announcer for Clemson and Don Munson being put in his place. And then we'll move on after we read some of these. This comes to us from Matt, who says, Phil, it's sad to see that no business is immune from office politics. Pete has been a great play-by-play guy and did so after being asked to fill the shoes of a legend in the booth. Following someone like Jim Phillips was never going to be easy, but Pete did it better than most. I remember hearing some Gamecock fans upset when Todd Ellis got the play-by-play job, and my hope for Don Munson is that he grows like Todd grew to be good in the booth. Yannity is well respected in our business and will forever be known as one of the nicest guys in the world. If there's one lesson to be learned from all of this, loyalty means nothing anymore. It's a very discouraging day for those of us young play-by-play men who are dumb, if you see how much we get paid, dumb enough to want to do this for a living. However, welcome to the real world. All right, this is from
I will say this: what's in Todd Ellis's corner as far as the fans are concerned, and that is association. He happens to be behind the mic in what people would call the renaissance of South Carolina football. And many fans equate voice and the success, and as I said before, like an old bedroom shoe, they start to get comfortable. And it's interesting how that plays out.
Mm-hmm. All right, some more. Let's see. I've lost my place. Here we go. This is from Country Boy, who says, Phil, you seem surprised that Clem Tech is not a dreamy place. I'm not, though I'm glad that my area sportscaster is no longer on the hook for my team's arch rival. I would expect perhaps the truth in Clemtech coverage from here on out instead of the lofty expressions that Pickens U is Mecca, and we should all bow east during, if nothing else, the 6 p.m. sports slot. I resent that the bias prevailed on WSPA about Clemtech, sliding USC's coverage even during their national championship baseball seasons. Not surprised when I hear flat-out bias in news reporting on the national and local level, but I expect the truth when I turn to sports. Since 2003, if you watched Pete Hannity on WSPA, you didn't get that. Instead, you got how great they were, even though they weren't, and usually at the expense of other teams. This is from Randy. Phil, you know how Dabo doesn't like negative stories about him or Clemson. Expect to be reprimanded soon, like limiting your press access. By the way, that was a great column. It's obvious Dabo is building Clemson into a church, the Church of Dabo, full of his worshipers and followers. You're either all in or out the door. And let's see, I got a couple of short ones I want to get to here. Let's see. There's a couple of good ones. Cornblute, you have lost all credibility. This is from Michael. You have lost all credibility with Clemson fans. If you're going to make accusations, I expect more facts. Yannity's statement did not indicate much bitterness. You should not try to create a story if there is no story. It must be a slow news day. I didn't create the story. It is a story. It happened, and we reported on it. And we, in my column, a column is a commentary is opinion. A column commentary, it's opinion. In this case, opinion based around the information that I know, and that's what we talked about on the show from the standpoint of what I know and what we shared with the audience. So, but a commentary gives you some leeway to add in your own opinion. So keep that in mind. Commentary has opinion. Reporting on the show in the aspect of when we're giving you news reports, that's based on the facts that we know. And we told you what we did know about the situation. Then in the commentary, we shared our opinion about what went down at Clemson on this deal. All right, we will be back. We've got our Braves report coming up here on Sports Talk. Don't go away. right, time for the Braves report here on Sports Talk. We bring in Mike Morgan, who's actually in Athens, preparing to do tomorrow's game on CSS of USC and Georgia. So I'm sure he'll touch on that series too. But first, the Braves, who couldn't get out of South Florida fast enough and get back to Atlanta, where they're going to face Tim Lincecum. Let's forget about the Marlins, and let's talk about tonight. In your opinion, what has happened with Tim Lincecum? We went over his numbers a little while ago. Over the past few years, why has he gone from being a dominating pitcher to below average?
Well, I could give you another half dozen jokes about maybe he's got the munchies, too much of the wacky weed, but I wouldn't go that far. That's under the belt stuff, and I'm going to rise above that.
That's big of you.
Yes, thank you so much. No, I think a lot of people around Major League Baseball saw this coming, because you have a guy who is, about 5'10", 5'11", 165 pounds, and can throw extremely hard, which, Craig Kimbrell is a little bit bigger than that. He can do it. Some guys can't do it. But the motion that he has, that herky-jerky motion, was always a concern. There's just some guys that have a motion that you look at and you say, well, it's one thing to be a freak of nature and be able to throw that hard at that size. It's another thing to have that kind of delivery. It's very similar. It's different, but it's also similar to Tommy Hanson. Tommy Hanson was a big guy, had a different motion, but one in which you could just tell there was so much strain on the elbow when he pitched that eventually he might have problems. Tommy Hanson a few years ago was one of the top rookies in all baseball. Now he's completely out of Major League Baseball, which is still amazing to me. I'm not saying that's going to happen to Tim Lincecum, but his motion, his delivery has always been scary, and I think it's finally come to roost, so to speak, in terms of the lack of effectiveness from a guy who was a Cy Young winner and now is a little bit more pedestrian on the mound.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to go to Sampson route and say he cut his hair. That's what happened to him.
It was that great when he had it the last couple of years, too. I mean, he's really just kind of fallen.
That's true. Well, I see the Braves have kind of rewarded Mr. Johnson at third base for his performance last year, because he's off to a slow start this year, but they've re-upped him for another 3 years.
Yeah, they have, and it's a move that I think is a solid one. Look, we all know who the big money players are and are going to be on this roster, and you can only have so many of them. So once you break bank, as the Braves did on Freddie Freeman, on Craig Kimbrell, I think eventually they're going to break bank on guys like Mike Minor. When you do that, you have to have some guys that are more in that middle range salary, which is what Chris Johnson is, but he's also a very solid player. Defensively, solid. Offensively, career year last year, as you mentioned, not off to nearly as good a start, but overall he's going to be middle of the pack in terms of third baseman. You can live with that when you've got some other guys in that lineup that can really deliver the mail, so to speak, much like a Freddie Freeman can.
All right, so Mike Minor makes his season debut tonight. Will he be on any restrictions? What do you expect to see from him?
I haven't heard anything about any restrictions. I mean, he's all stretched out. It's not like he's just coming off the disabled list or anything like that. He's been pitching since the beginning of the year in the minor leagues. That's really been his spring training. So if he's dominating, I would expect him to go pretty deep into the game tonight. If he's not dominating, well, it might be an early hook. But either way, the Braves are so happy to have him back. He's really a staple of that rotation, a left-hander who, if you look at his last 50 starts as a major league starter, his earned run average is under 3. So once he figured out how to do it in the bigs, he continued to be one of the better pitchers in the National League, and I would expect more of that this year.
Braves lineup tonight, left-handers have been hitting Lincecum at a very strong clip, 353. Are they adjusting the lineup in any way?
No radical changes there. You've already got a lineup that's pretty left-handed heavy. When you start talking about Freeman and Hayward, the only righties that you always have in there are the Upton brothers. And, of course, BJ just hit a bomb yesterday, albeit in a losing effort. And Justin Upton, you're certainly not going to take him out the way he's been hitting. So there's enough lefties in there to do some damage, and you've got a couple of righties that are starting to heat up a bit.
All right, real quick, in 20 seconds, quick preview of USC, Georgia. What are you expecting?
Well, I've had both teams already this year. I had South Carolina and Arkansas right before they kind of hit the skids for that 5-game streak, but they're playing better even though they're obviously without a lot of guys in the lineup. And I can just tell you, Georgia, 1 through 5, very solid. Once you get to the bottom third of that lineup, very vulnerable, very young. It's a rebuilding process with a new coach. It's a series I think the Gamecocks should take on the road.
All right, Mike, thank you. Mike's report brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union, helping South Carolinians attain their financial goals, and by Whit Suber of Home Shop Realty. And we'll be back.
Stand by.
Here's the starting lineup for Clemson tonight, as posted by the Tigers. Tyler Slayton leading off, playing center. Stephen Duggar moving up to the 2-hole in right. And they've got Tyler Krieger DHing, batting third. Boulware in left, batting fourth. He hadn't played much outfield this year. Second base will be Steve Wilkerson. Then Chris Oakey catching. Shane Kennedy at first. Jay Baum at short, and Weston Wilson at third. So Jack shaking things up a little bit, changing some things up. He realizes that they've got to get it going here. 12 games to go. They've got to make up for some losses that they've had this season, especially. They need some wins to secure their spot in the postseason. Don't worry about hosting or anything like that now. That might be out the window. They've got to worry about just getting into the field at this point. You want more out of your education? Well, Palmetto College offers the quality of a 4-year education online. And to find out more, visit palmettocollege.sc.edu. With Palmetto College, your future has no limits. Hard to believe we're down to the last 2 weeks of the regular season. And once we get through this weekend, South Carolina and Clemson will each have 2 more league weekend series to go. So it's rapidly coming to a close. We'll be headed to Hoover and to, where is the ACC this year? Is it in Durham or Greenwood?
Back in Durham again?
Is it Durham or Greenwood? Not Greenwood. I'm talking Greensboro.
They're
Greensboro
still using that convoluted system?
Yeah.
Oh.
You play 3 games. Be in pool play, you'll play 3 games, and the best team. You know, I hear you over there breathing heavy.
It's growing on you?
Well, it's not growing on me, but I can see I can see the
The-
rationale
the
behind it.
pitching,
You can.
saving the
It's in
pitching.
Greensboro, yeah. You can set up your pitching. You're guaranteed 3 games. I know it's crazy in that, you can be out of the competition after the first day.
Right.
But if you're a team that's on that border, you get a chance to, as far as the NCAA is concerned, you can play 2 more games and win, and that might help you get into. It gives you at least you're guaranteed an extra game, whereas the SEC tournament you're only guaranteed 2 games.
Right.
You're guaranteed
Exactly.
3 there.
Just so you can be 2 in barbecue in the SEC. But I just think
Let me say this real quick.
Uh-huh.
I want to thank a caller. I was wrong. Sprint Cup qualifying is tomorrow afternoon at Talladega. It's nationwide qualifying tonight. I should have checked my schedule. So it's Sprint Cup is tomorrow afternoon. Nationwide is tonight.
No, I was about to say, I think the competition should be simpler for the fan. Double elimination, you lose. Plus, you're pitching, you set it up, well, all great and good, but just like anything else, it ought to be on attrition. If you got to play extra games to get to the title game and you run out of pitching, so be it.
All right. Top of the hour break here on Sports Talk. Coming up, Tyler Thigpen will join us. We'll talk some NASCAR, the full Monty on NASCAR with Monty Dutton tonight. And, of course, we give you the recruiting report later on. We'll be back.
Stand by.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
We are back, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network on a Friday night, and we thank you for joining us here on the program. Phil Kornbluth and the Professor, Thomas Hayes, the State Man, Graham Pope, once again behind the bulletproof glass. Coming up, Tyler Thigpen will join us. We'll talk about his new gig with the Cleveland Browns. Underway in Athens, South Carolina and Georgia, just getting underway. They're actually going to the bottom of the first. Gamecocks do not score top of the first, so it's scoreless going to the bottom of the first there. Clemson and James Madison up at Doug Kingsmore. They're getting underway here in just a little bit as well. And so we've got baseball happening all over the place. We'll check some other baseball scores for you as we go on through the rest of the program. Braves getting underway. Well, they don't start till 7:30, actually, in their game tonight against the Giants at Turner Field. Let's take a look at the college scoreboard. While we have a moment here, Tennessee is leading Kentucky 4-0. They started that series last night in Knoxville. Kentucky won last night. I was watching a little bit of the replay on television this afternoon. Had an inside-the-park home run in that game for Kentucky. Barely beat the throw-in. Left fielder dove for the ball, missed it, had to get up, run it down, threw it in, relay. Just beat the throw at the plate. Very exciting. But right now, Tennessee is leading 4-3, top of the third inning. Let's see what else we've got going on around the state as far as games involving state teams tonight. You've got Upstate playing at East Tennessee State. In the Big South today, Charleston Southern beat Presbyterian 4-2. Top of the second, NC State is leading Coastal Carolina 1-0. In the Southern Conference tonight and this afternoon, the Citadel has beaten Wofford 8-1. Furman and Georgia Southern tonight. In the SEC tonight, besides USC Georgia and Tennessee Kentucky, you've got Florida at Alabama, LSU at Texas A&M, Arkansas at Ole Miss, Mississippi State at Auburn, and Vanderbilt at Missouri. And elsewhere around the ACC tonight, besides the Clemson game against James Madison, Minnesota and Florida State's been postponed. Notre Dame leads, Maryland leads Notre Dame 2-0, top of the second. Alabama State's at Miami. Pittsburgh and Boston College, BC wins that one 3-2. And Virginia Tech plays at Georgia Tech tonight at 7 o'clock. So you're up to date there on the ACC baseball. And nationally, let's see if there's anything else that looks good nationally. West Virginia leads Texas 1-0, top of the third. And Washington beat Utah 8-4. Washington's ranked number 13. When did Washington get good in baseball? It kind of snuck up on you like the Oregon schools did.
Yeah, because they didn't have baseball back then. And of course, when they used to have the old Pac-10, Washington schools and Oregon didn't play. That's why the baseball, they called it the six-pack, because there was only 6 teams playing. All
right, we'll hit a break here. Tyler Thigpen coming up on the other side of this timeout.
This game last night, but even after the win, he said one billboard took things too far.
People expect sandwich shops to make food fast. So how long do they think the meat on Arby's Smokehouse brisket is smoked?
Maybe an hour.
It's the initialism for hashtag.
What if I told you that Arby's brisket is smoked for at least 13 hours?
That's longer than I smoke my meat.
It's going to be a munchitation situation.
Let me look. I would imagine it's hashtag, right?
Is smoked with hickory wood for at least
you know, I'm not all Twitter special here.
Smokehouse brisket sandwich, freshly sliced in store and topped with melty smoked Gouda cheese. Craveable brisket, ready when you are. Arby's. Slice it up freshness.
Me and the guys walk into this place. Now, you would have thought from the name of it, it's going to be packed with sailors. So I immediately picked out the biggest guy in there, and I walked straight up to him.
Hat tip.
He looks me square in the eye, and I swear he says, "Welcome to Navy Federal Credit Union." Whoa, friendly alert. I got a great auto rate out of that guy.
With rates slashed across the board, it's a great time to buy a car. 4 million members.
Did you hear me, Corn?
4 million stories. Navy Federal Credit Union.
Heard through or hat tip? Something you heard in a conversation, and hat tip to Graham because he's the man. He told me this today.
Old Spice.
Heard through or hat tip. Either, I mean, to me it's the same thing.
Right out of my son, Old Spice.
Don't deal with embarrassing antiperspirant residue. Choose Right Guard Extreme Clear. Its revolutionary formula combines powerful stain-fighting technology with extra effective wetness protection. The choice is clear. Right Guard for the win. Also trying the power of the world's first clinical clear.
So I guess my whole hashtag through is really stupid.
Blend of natural citrus flavors. Squeeze the most out of summer. New Coors Light Summer Brew.
There's a war humans don't know about. Could mean the end of all mankind. This ends tonight.
I, Frankenstein.
This spring, reawaken yourself to sun-filled days and exhilarating drives at the Infinity Limited Engagement Spring Event, where you'll find exceptional offers on our entire lineup, like the new Q50 for only $369 a month.
The draft is coming, and 32 teams are on the clock, but you only care about one team's destiny. Over 250 names will be called. You just want to know which ones you'll end up yelling. ESPN Insider, your way.
Stand by, guys.
Yeah. All right, no score in Athens. South Carolina and Georgia underway. They've gone to the second inning in Athens, and no score, bottom of the first. Clemson and James Madison in their game up at the Doug Kingsmore Stadium. The current Powerball jackpot is now $60 million. Be sure to purchase Power Play for an extra $1 for a chance to increase your winnings from the South Carolina Education Lottery. Phil Kornblut, Professor Tom Hayes here, Friday edition of Sports Talk. It's a football Friday without any football games, but we can talk football, and let's do that with, to be an NFL quarterback is a very elite thing. There aren't many in the world, and we've got one joining us, and he's back in the league. Tyler Thigpen, the former Coastal Carolina star, hooking on with the Cleveland Browns this week, and he joins us now. And first of all, congratulations to you, man. How's it feel to be back in the league?
I tell you what, it's a great feeling. Thank you guys for having me on.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Tell us how this all came about. I know that you've been looking to catch on with some teams. You've had a variety of workouts. How did this come together for you with the Browns?
Like you said, I've definitely been training for this opportunity. Last year I had 4 workouts, one with Seattle, one with Oakland, one with St. Louis, and one with Dallas. But, nothing came of those last year. So I talked to my agent, Joel Turner, at the beginning of this past year and told him that I'll give it one more go-round, meaning this year. And if nothing came from it, then I was going to go ahead and hang it up. So went through all of off-season, and free agency started in in March. And then nothing, got no calls from that. So I didn't really get discouraged, but I was like, I'll continue to just just to keep working out. In worst case scenario, I keep myself in shape. But the other day I was on Saturday I'd woken up and got a little breakfast, and then next thing you know, I get a call from my agent after I'd gotten back from Lowe's, and he was like, "Hey, Cleveland Browns just called and said they want to bring you in for their voluntary minicamp next week." And here it is, I guess almost a week later, and I got a contract with the Cleveland Browns, so I'm excited about the opportunity.
Well, you must have done extremely well in the camp. Tell us about what stood out for you. I know Vince Young was there as well. He must have done well because they signed him too. But for you, what really stood out in the workout?
I think the biggest thing for me was retaining the offense, being able to go in there, and it actually was a very similar offense that I had in my rookie year, which was actually about 8 years ago. But, I was able to recall a lot of things from it, I guess, from being around. You can only run a curl one way, but you can call it in many ways you want to call it, depending on the type of offense. But for me, the workout went great. Felt a lot of familiarity of learning the offense. But for the most part, the biggest thing for me was getting in there and being able to perform. It's been very frustrating for those 4 workouts I had last year of just going in there and throwing on air and not actually getting out there and competing with a defense and being judged off of a workout just for, a 30-minute workout. But actually this workout was actually a mini camp that I was invited to, so it was 3 days of practice. So I felt like that was more of a realistic opportunity for me to come in and do something like that and actually get out there on the field and perform. And I definitely felt that, it went well, but there was also some things that, I'm very critical of my play. And there were some things that I learned in the mini camp that, now that I'm signed there, that once I get back there, those are things that I'm going to have to work on.
Have passing arm will travel, the life of a backup quarterback in the NFL. I was about to ask you about the ability to pick up terminology and play structure and that sort of thing very quickly. But tell me this, they've got Hoyer as the starter. Vince Young signs a contract. You sign a contract. Who knows? I mean, Johnny Manziel may be drafted. Have you gotten assurances from Cleveland that you're going to be there in a Browns uniform when the season kicks off?
That right now I haven't gotten that assurance, but I know that, with them signing, obviously there's the opportunity ahead of me. So I think everything with the all-season workouts with OTAs and then another mini camp, I think, in June, and then also with training camp coming up in August, I think that's an opportunity for me to prove myself and prove to the coaches that, hey, I belong there and deserve a chance to be on the 53-man roster.
When they signed you, were they thinking about, and with Vince Young, were they thinking about you two strictly in a backup mode, or will you get the chance in training camp to compete with, I think it's Brian Hoyer right now is who they have kind of penciled in as a starter. Will you guys have a chance to win the overall job?
Right now, it seems like they pretty much, after, going through the mini camp with those guys, it seems like that Brian Hoyer right now is penciled in as the starter, but things change. You never know what could come about during training camp or OTAs. And he's coming off an ACL surgery from last year, so you just never know how that knee will hold up. But for right now, I think the opportunity to just get signed by a ball club, I think now everything lies in my hands. And it's my job as a professional now to go out there and perform. And if my ability when I go out there and perform is better than someone else's, then that decision should be left up to the coaches to make that decision. And that's my ultimate goal, is to make the decision tough for the coaches.
Mm-hmm. Visiting with Tyler Thigpen, former Coastal Carolina star, getting another shot at the NFL. It's not like you haven't done some good things in the NFL. I mean, you've thrown for over 3,000 yards in your career. You've thrown 21 touchdown passes. So you know how to move the football, and you know how to get a team into the end zone. What do you think it is that has just kept you from being the guy and grabbing that starting job? I mean, I guess a lot of times it's just being in the right place at the right time. Have you just not found that right place at the right time?
You're exactly right. It was very frustrating after my second year in Kansas City of coming off a great year. We didn't win a lot of games, and the front office at the time had gotten fired after that year, and then they hired a new GM, Scott Pioli, and as soon as he came in, he interviewed with Herm Edwards, who was the head coach at the time, who had said after that season that if I'm here next year, Tyler Thigpen is going to be our guy. And then next thing you know, they let him go and bring in Todd Haley, and when they brought in Todd Haley, they wanted to bring in, and usually when a new GM comes into a situation, they want to bring in their own guy if there's not a guy that's already there to established. And when they brought in Matt Castle, that's when they kind of put me on the back burner. And so it's been one of those things. You're right. You definitely have to be in the right place at the right time. And but like I said, it was very frustrating at the time. I didn't understand why, but I also understand that it's definitely a business that you're in. So you just got to deal with the cards that are dealt. And after that year, I hung around for 4 more years, 2 years in Miami and 2 years in Buffalo. But it's just understanding what being a pro is all about, and everything's not going to work out in your favor. But you also have to understand how to adjust and move on the fly.
When do you go back to Cleveland?
I head back this Sunday. They flew me back in last night, and I had to get a couple things squared away around the house. But we had this weekend off anyways, so I'll be heading out Sunday to get back there, and then we'll have workouts for another 2 weeks, and then we'll start OTAs in 3 weeks after the rookie mini camp, after they do the draft and everything.
Well, we wish you the best of luck. It'd be great to see you sticking again with the NFL and getting a chance to throw some touchdown passes out there and getting a chance to play. I know if you do, you will excel, and we'll keep in touch with you. Thanks for joining us tonight, and best of luck.
I really appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me on. You have a great one.
You too, my man. All right, Tyler Thigpen, who, by the way, just had a birthday, well, a couple of weeks ago, April 14th. So that makes him, he was born in 1984. That would make him
30.
30?
Mm-hmm.
Well, happy 30th birthday there,
Well,
Tyler.
he brings up an interesting point, because I think he got caught in a situation in Miami when he was down there. You draft a quarterback. I don't know if that year was Chad Henne or whoever it was when he was down there, but it was almost like, well, Thigpen is playing the better ball, but we're paying this guy so much. Put him in there because we got to see what he can do. And you get caught in those situations where even if you're by the performance on the field have the better deal, they're going to go with the guy that they've invested the most money in to see what he can do.
No question. At Coastal, I remember that first year. He was the first quarterback of their first team in 2003. Of course, they were miserable throwing the football. He had 5 touchdown passes and 4 interceptions in his freshman year. As a starting quarterback, they couldn't complete a pass. I remember that. But then the next year, he threw for over 1,000 yards, went over 1,500 yards the next year, and then his senior year, 3,300 yards, 29 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. He also rushed for 600 yards and 4 touchdowns. So you can see the progress they made on the collegiate level. Going to get to some heavy NASCAR in the next half hour with Monty Dutton and Frank Kerr, the crew chief for Sports Talk. He'll join us as well from Talladega. Let's do recruiting now. Offensive lineman Shane Lemieux of Yakima, Washington, of course, committed unofficially to USC since late March, and he plans to make the pledge official when he visits again this summer with his mother. That being said, he's staying busy checking out others. He was at Boise State 3 weeks ago, Washington State 2 weeks back. This weekend he's going to Oregon for the spring game, and he's picked up an offer from Michigan. Still, he tells us nothing has changed. He said South Carolina's still at the top. He talks to Coach Elliott, he said, almost every day, and he's coming down to Yakima soon, he said. So South Carolina's still the leader for Lemieux. Defensive back Mike Hughes, New Bern, North Carolina, hearing a lot from USC right now. The Gamecocks have him highly interested. He's in touch with recruiter Deke Adams on a regular basis, and they want him to come and visit. They like his film. He says it seems like they want him pretty badly, and he could see himself playing at USC. He's also talking a lot with North Carolina and NC State. No visits so far this spring. Hopes to make a decision before the season. Also an offer from Clemson, but he's not hearing much from them. Florida, Ole Miss, Virginia, East Carolina, Virginia Tech, Louisville, Wake Forest, Duke, and Texas A&M have also offered. Liberty, the second school to offer defensive back Ryan Davis of AC Flora. Several others are showing strong interest. He also has an offer from NC State. Wake Forest was expected to visit with him at his school this week. Several other SEC and ACC schools showing interest. North Carolina has been by to see him as well. And he expects Liberty to come by for a spring practice in a couple of weeks. He's also hearing from Alabama, Auburn, and Dartmouth. He'll visit Duke this summer, plans to camp at Florida State. Tight end Garrett Williams, Orlando, expects to make his decision in a couple of weeks. Spring game is on May 22nd. He plans to make the announcement sometime before that. He has Clemson, Florida State, Auburn, and Stanford, his final four. With no leader, he will not take any more visits. He doesn't think until after his decision is made. Auburn is trying to get him to visit, but he doesn't think he can make it. He's very strong on Clemson. He loves the coaching staff, he says. Says they're great men of God, and incredible coaches. And he says he feels really comfortable with everyone on the coaching staff, and Clemson has been recruiting him very hard. The Tigers today offered 2016 defensive end Malik Walker of Montezuma, Georgia. Dorman receiver J.J. Arcega-Whiteside was offered today by Georgia Tech. Tevin Mack of Dreer offered today by Mississippi State. He was at USC yesterday to meet with Frank Martin and assistant Matt Figger. Said it was pretty cool. They've talked about how he has progressed in the last year. They've liked how he's developed, and they talked about the team and the program. They had a good conversation, he said, but USC has not offered. He had a great performance in Pittsburgh AAU event last weekend. Wake Forest offered him earlier in the week, and he said that the Gamecocks told him that when he gets around the time he decides on the top five to let them know, and they may be ready to offer then. Clemson wants him to visit campus. Then they'll offer him, and he plans to do that at some time as well. All right, we'll hit a break and we'll be right back. And we're back, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, here on a Friday night. Good to have you with us. And we update what's happening in baseball. South Carolina, Georgia, bottom of the third, and they're scoreless. Both teams have 2 hits. Clemson with a 1-0 lead on James Madison as they play in the top of the second inning at Doug Kingsmore Stadium. 1-2-0 for the Tigers, 0-2-1 for James Madison. In just a moment, the full Monty on NASCAR as Monty Dutton will join us. Hey, if you want more from your college education, well, Palmetto College offers the quality of a 4-year education online. And to find out more, visit palmettocollege.sc.edu. With Palmetto College, your future has no limits. All right, we welcome in our good friend, former NASCAR beat writer, very close observer of the sport, often opines on his websites, MontyDutton.com. That's M-O-N-T-E, Dutton.com. It is the full Monty on NASCAR. How are you, sir?
I'm just fine, Phil. I was listening to you last night as I was driving down the highway.
Well, we appreciate that. Glad that you were. Now, NASCAR wants these guys to rough it up when they're mad at one another, yet when they do have fisticuffs in the garage and everybody's talking about it and buzzing about it, they turn around and suspend them or put them on probation or fine them. Now, is that fair logic by NASCAR, you think?
Well, it is pretty strange because I think it'd be funny that I was just watching a commercial a while ago where they showed on the NASCAR commercial Tony Stewart and Joey Logano trying to get each other at each other.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they just fined the 2 drivers this week $40,000. Are they now going to put them on commercials, you know, and just use it as a means of drawing fans? I think that's really sort of strange in a lot of ways, because how many times have I heard people in NASCAR say, hey, look, if you want to go out there and fight, well, you go ahead, but leave the car alone. Don't endanger other people. Settle it. Don't settle it on the racetrack. Well, last week, several people settled on the racetrack. After the race was over, they didn't get fined, but 2 guys who duked it out did. And then the second thing that I would say is that, okay, what happened was that Casey Mears shoved Ambrose, sort of looked like he was blocking him like he was playing football.
Mm-hmm.
And when he hit it, Ambrose connected with a right.
Yes, he did.
So Ambrose got $25,000 and Mears got $15,000. Does that mean that Ambrose got fined more because he won? I mean, like the other guy started it and he finished it. And so does that mean that, say, you know, shoving somebody is not as bad as hitting somebody? To me, that seems kind of strange that they would judge the penalty on a 10-point must system.
Here's the other thing that they were criticized for. I mean, these guys finished 18th and 19th respectively, so it wasn't like they were racing for the win. And so maybe they should have just let it go because they weren't factoring in at the front of the pack. They were back in the middle of the pack, and, like, really, who cares if you're back there in 18th and 19th spot?
Well, I mean, I actually don't question the fact, I mean, that perhaps there might be some disciplinary action in that, you know, in other sports, you know, everybody, you know, I had this controversy in the NBA. I don't even know how it came out over whether the player was going to be fined more because he came off the bench or just coming off the bench a few feet count, you know. So, I mean, I don't see where I can see where you don't want just it to be, you know, the law west of the Pecos out there.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems to me that so much about NASCAR bounces back and forth, you know. Hey, they're going too fast, slow them down. Well, the tires are too hard. Now the tires are too soft. You know, speak your mind. Hey, you speak your mind, we're going to fine you.
Mm-hmm.
And so it seems like to me that it's kind of like a never-ending series of overreactions back and forth.
Contradictions. Let me ask you this now. Besides all that, the racing at Richmond was fantastic.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, you tell me your thoughts about the end and how it played out, and just why Logano was able to steal that victory.
Well, there have been several races like this lately. I think that the Darlington Nationwide victory by Chase Elliott was a similar case of where one driver, by having a cool head, everybody else started paying attention to each other and raced and made aggressive moves and left an opening, which essentially Logano was. It was kind of like there was a little extracurricular racing with Jeff Gordon and Brad Keselowski, and so the three guys in front started, blocking and moving around each other, and it all of a sudden left the bottom wide open for Logano to come through. I think that's really great stuff. I think you want a guy who takes advantage of what happens and has the clear mind when all hell is breaking loose to have a cool head.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what Logano showed.
Jeff Gordon finished second, and I just wonder, he made a smart move coming off pit road to get himself the optimum restart position, which is what he wanted to do, yet he didn't win the race. He's getting a lot of seconds and thirds. Why is he not winning? Can it be traced to him losing some skills? He certainly has the car and the crew. Is he somewhere losing that winner's edge?
Well, I think that any time in any sport when you start doing this, it's very easy to be, simplistic. But I also think that every athlete and every person anywhere else, over time, you make up for what you're losing in pure skill by using experience. That won't last forever. I think probably if you ask Jeff Gordon, he'd probably tell you that he wasn't the driver he was when he was 25, but he has a lot more sense.
Mm-hmm.
Sense can work two ways, particularly at a place like Talladega.
Guys
who win are the ones that don't have the sense.
But when you get sense in racing, don't you kind of lose a little bit of your nerve? Don't you use a little bit of that daredevil? Yeah. But you won't stick the nose in there maybe like you would when you were a younger guy and you're thinking you're infallible?
Sometimes one of the things you always see at NASCAR races is those old veterans watching it. They'll say, "Man, that kid's something, isn't it? You know why he's that way? He hadn't hit a wall yet."
Mm-hmm.
As I said, I don't think it's not. In 2011, Tony Stewart, had a last hurrah season where he was absolutely spectacular at the end of the year. I think at this time in his career, Jeff Gordon, who is the same age as Stewart, I think that last hurrah is what keeps Jeff Gordon around.
Mm-hmm.
If he would win a championship, I'm not sure. I wouldn't be surprised to see him retire.
Well, he's leading the points right now. 30 seconds. Will we see multiple major crashes on Sunday?
Overwhelmingly likely at this particular venue.
Overwhelmingly likely, huh?
Yes. It's very. And if you watch it for a while and it doesn't happen, just tune in at the end, because that's probably when all hell is going to break out in general at the end of NASCAR races, and in Talladega more so than any other. And
this is a track where it's impossible to predict a winner because you just don't know who's going to be there in the last two laps.
Yeah, there's a method to the madness, but a lot sort of randomly of people making the best of what they are, and sometimes the best position is not what you think it is, and you're right. David Radin has won 2 plate races, and he's a good driver on these tracks. But guys, the equipment doesn't make as much difference at Talladega. Getting in the right position aerodynamically can overcome having equipment that's not quite as fast.
Monty, as always, we certainly appreciate it. Have yourself a great weekend. Enjoy the racing at Talladega. The full Monty on NASCAR, Monty Dutton, MontyDutton.com. Check out Monty's stuff. He writes about more than NASCAR, though NASCAR is his passion, next to his hometown of Clinton and maybe still the Furman Paladins. Frank Kerr coming up.
All right, stand by, stand by.
Love it when it's four wide, love it when it's fast, love it when the lead is caught, the pack is moving past, love it when they make you lots and lots of noise, can't wait to hear the double say. Biggity, 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 let's go racing, boys! Let's go racing, boys.
And indeed, they're going racing this weekend at Talladega. We welcome in the official crew chief of Sports Talk, the number 38 machine driven by David Gilliland. It is Frank Kerr joining us. We've tried to reach him throughout the season. We finally snare him at Talladega. How are you, sir?
Good, guys. How are you?
Hey, we're doing
Been
great.
a while.
It has been. It's great to have you back with us. Enjoyed talking to you on pit road at Darlington before you guys went racing there. How was your day today on the track?
It was pretty good. We were eighth quick in the first practice, and we didn't even go out in the second one. We thought our car was pretty good, and it sucked up well. And qualifying tomorrow is going to be scary enough without being out in the draft any longer.
I was going to say, is it one of those deals where you guys just rolled off the truck and it was good?
Yeah, it was actually really good off the truck. We made a 30-second Packer change in the bump stops, so that's basically all we've done. So it was pretty good.
Now, what makes you nervous about this new qualifying format at Talladega? I guess this is the first time they've done it this way on one of the restrictor plate tracks, right? Because Daytona, y'all did the typical Daytona qualifying.
Yeah, Daytona was normal, one car at a time, but this year, the important thing is to get in a pack and get in a good pack with a speed, so your qualifying time is fast enough to be in the show.
Do you think you're going to see a lot of wrecking out there in qualifying? A lot of machines going to get torn up?
Well, you never know, because you have guys coming up to speed, you have guys at speed, you have guys trying to take advantage of the draft and get a big number. Then you're going to have big packs coming out on the racetrack that are planned to be together, that are not at the speed yet. So, I mean, it could be quite exciting now, that.
Yeah, I can imagine so. Talking with Frank Kerr from Talladega. So I was watching some of practice today, and it looked like a lot of single-file stuff. Is that how the racing will play out on Sunday?
I don't think so. Like in the first practice there, it was 2, 3, and 4 times, sometimes 4 wide. They gave us a smaller restrictor plate this year for Talladega, and it seems to make the runs bigger, to get to a pack. So I think it's going to be a little different than it has been in the past, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. What kind of tire compound is Goodyear giving you?
This is the same. Well, they tell us this is the same tire we had last year for the second race, but so far it's actually showing a lot of wear. And there's a few teams that are actually worried about right front camber wear. So just have to see how it goes. We came on the safe side, and then even went safer as far as the camber after we've got here. So hopefully there isn't tire issues, but there might be come Sunday.
You finished 20th last week at Richmond. That's your best finish of the year. So you see that as a step forward for the team? And of course, you've done well. Your team's done well at these restrictor plate tracks.
Well, yeah, we're looking forward to the restrictor plate races, to be honest. We finished 2nd and 7th here at Talladega. It's really, the luck of being in, a certain pack at the end and position yourself, and to be there at the end, not get in trouble. So, as far as our performance, we've shown, speed at Texas. We were really actually pretty good. And Richmond was a really good run for us. And, we had to start in the back. We just didn't qualify, got rained out, so we never got to qualify. So, we're just learning every week and trying to get better.
Mm-hmm. One thing about David, he seems to stay out of trouble unless it's unavoidable. He seems to keep your car in one piece.
Yeah, he does. He does a good job at it. He understands the obstacles that we're up against with our small team. We don't have a lot of cars. We don't have a lot of people to repair them, you know what I mean, as quickly as we need to.
Mm-hmm.
So he's conscious of that, but he's also aggressive at the same time.
Yeah. What's on the hood this weekend?
We got the Love's car this week, Love's Travel Center. They've been a good partner this year. I believe they're going to be on the car for 14 races throughout the season. So it's become a good relationship between Front Row Motorsports and Love's Travel Centers.
We wish you the best of luck, and we want to see you running up front on Sunday. Hope it goes well.
We'll appreciate it, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Frank Kerr, good to get him back on the program as we've tried. The problem is the qualifying has been on Friday nights for the most part this season, so we're not able to reach him. One time we did have a chance to reach him, but we couldn't get a connection. But we got him tonight. We appreciate that. Let's all pull for the 38s. Get off of Dale Earnhardt and jump on David Gilliland's bumper.
Jump on his band bumper. Just do the bumper. What's that thing called? The bumper. Remember when all you morons around here said he should have been a basketball player for years? You're such a good point guard. Da 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 da. Is his qualifying schedule supposed to ease up as far as the Friday nights? All right, gentlemen, let's put a bow on it.
Now, I wouldn't suggest jumping on Gilliland's bumper. That might slow him down. The bandwagon, that's what I was trying to think of. I couldn't come up with
bandwagon. The bandwagon now.
Not his bumper. That wouldn't be good. Clemson up 2-0 now on James Madison, bottom of the third inning. Let's see, the Tigers scored in the top of the first, a Boulware single, drove in Duggar. And in the bottom of the third, Krager singled up the middle for an RBI, and Duggar scored there as well. He has scored both of the Tigers' runs. It's 2-0 Clemson. USC trailing 1-0 to Georgia in the top of the fifth, 2 outs. Georgia scoring a run in the bottom of the fourth. South Carolina with only 2 hits thus far, one by Griner and one by English. So the Gamecocks offensively being held at bay thus far by Lawler of Georgia, who's pitched extremely well. Ryan Lawler, 4 2/3. He has struck out 4 and allowed just 2 hits and has not walked anybody. Jordan Montgomery pitching for the Gamecocks, 4 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned run, only 1 strikeout by him thus far. So the Gamecocks, they are trailing now, going to the bottom of the fifth. It's 1-0 Georgia. And we'll update some other college baseball for you. And Pro can update the Braves. What's happening there?
Mike Minor, his first pitching stint of the year, 1-0 Giants. He surrendered a run in the first. Tim Lincecum got out of a 2-runners on, 2-out jam, and the Giants retain a 1-0 lead there in the top of the second. And the Nets have a 14-point lead at last check against Toronto in Game 6. They're trying to stave off elimination.
All right, and East Tennessee State leading Upstate 1-0. That's in the top of the second inning. And let's see, Charleston Southern beat PC 4-2. NC State leading Coastal 2-0. That's in the fourth. That's all you got in Big South action. Southern Conference, Georgia Southern leading Furman 1-0. Bottom of the third, Citadel beat Wofford 8-1. Elsewhere around the SEC, Vandy and Missouri scoreless. Mississippi State Auburn scoreless. Arkansas Ole Miss scoreless. LSU leads Texas A&M 1-0, top of the first. Florida and Alabama scoreless. Tennessee leads Kentucky 4-2, bottom of the fourth. Elsewhere around the ACC, Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech scoreless. Boston College beat Pitt 3-2. Miami over Alabama State 6-0. Notre Dame trails Maryland 2-0, top of the fifth. Minnesota, Florida State rained out. All right. That will do it for us tonight here on Sports Talk. It's been a great week. We thank you for being a part of the program, both over the air, on the internet, through the email, and through posting on the website. We thank you for all of that. We hope you have a great weekend. Pro, enjoy your weekend. State Man, be careful this time in Charleston, will you? Try to come back in one piece for a change. That'd be nice. And we will see you back here on Sports Talk Monday night. Thanks for being with us. Have a great weekend. Good night.